I was an ex-Muslim for 3 years when I was 13 to 16 years old. I wanted to share the reason I converted and see if any of you have anything to contribute. I had known little about Muhammad, peace be upon him, prior becoming an atheist. Upon leaving Islam, I learned from the ex-Muslims he was basically the worst person to ever exist. Well, obviously this wasn't true, and those people just have some bias. I noticed this bias quickly due to their horrible arguments and disproof in Islam, e.g., that Quran says the sun sets in murky water. I thought this argument was so terrible when I was only 15 years old and an ex-Muslim that I figured I should try to learn from Islam on my own and more objectively, because if that's their best argument, Islam may be pretty sound. I initially reasoned that Muhammad, peace be upon him, must have either been a liar and conman with ulterior motives, hallucinating and delusional, Udhu billah, or was a prophet of God, just as I would reason Joseph Smith or anyone else would fall into one of these three categories. This was my first inclination. However, I quickly ran into some oddities. For me, the Quran itself rebuked Muhammad, peace be upon him, in a few areas including chapter 80, where Muhammad, peace be upon him, is rebuked by the Quran itself. This alone doesn't really prove that he wasn't a liar or conman. It just is a bit peculiar and gave me some pause. Eventually, an evaluation of number of hadiths did rule out Prophet being a liar for me. I found it too unlikely the Prophet was lying or trying to seek ulterior motives for the following reasons. He was physically abused by his contemporaries, including being nearly choked. I cannot imagine with his life threatened consistently that he would continue risking his life for 12 years in Mecca. He repeatedly refused king-like treatments, e.g. the straw mat hadith. A liar or conman would presumably accept kingly treatments and superior treatments. The Prophet starved himself. Often, another example, a conman or a liar would presumably please himself with food, not torment himself with starvation. The opportunity presented itself for the Prophet to lie and say a solar eclipse was due to his recent death of his son, but he refused to and told his followers that the sun and moon are just signs of God. They do not eclipse. For the birth or death of anyone, a liar would have taken advantage of the situation. Again, presumably, Muhammad, peace be upon him, performed the ritual fasting and prayers far exceeding the requirements of the religion, which also does not make sense for a conman or a liar neither. In short, for at least these reasons outlined above, I found it unlikely the Prophet was a liar or conman. It helped that Quraysh even considered him truthful, but was not necessary to make this point. It would not make sense for a man to lie about a religion with no exterior motives, i.e., no increase in wealth or gluttony. His refusal to encourage superstition surrounding him, and his refusal to end his message despite suffering verbal and physical abuse that almost cost him his life on multiple occasions, really made this first possibility, that he was lying or seeking an ulterior motive, highly unlikely. Maybe he was just hallucinating? Hallucinating or delusions? Delusions and hallucinations are different. A delusion is a false belief, and a hallucination is perceiving that something that is not truly there. E.g., a delusion would be you believing the sun is trying to kill you. A hallucination would be you see the sun inside your bedroom with a knife. The two can unfold together but aren't required. My concern with the Prophet hallucinating was fourfold, but can be summarized in go listen to Surat Maryam in Arabic with English translation and tell me that's all one hallucination. Many verses in Quran were revealed cogently in response to queries by Muhammad's, peace be upon him, contemporaries. But the most damning example would be Surat Yusuf, which is an apparent replica of the story of Joseph in Judaism. That was a supposedly test of his prophethood. This could not be the product of a hallucination due to its perfect similarity. This chapter even makes the correct judgment of calling the king of Egypt a king, and not a pharaoh, 12:15, while the Bible fails to make that distinction Genesis 41:17, and incorrectly refers to the king as Pharaoh. The coherence of the Quran in its prose yet poetic-like composition does not align itself with hallucination. The rhythm and meter of the Quran is too well developed to be the product of a hallucination. Chapters like Ar-Rahman, Yasin, Taqir, Qiyamah, Taba are beautiful. For the record, the entire Quran is beautiful in composition, which eliminates the explanation that the Quran was produced as a hallucination. A hallucinated dream which spawned the Quran would not be rhythmic or linguistically beautiful as the Quran is, nor as coherent or responsive as the Quran is. Masterpieces like Ayat al-Nur and more apparently Ayat al-Kursi. The symmetrical nature of Ayat al-Kursi, as can be seen here, a hallucination would lack such symmetry. In short, my problems appear to be that the Quran is too beautiful, coherent, and correctly responsive to critics, e.g. Surat Yusuf and Kahf, to be the product of hallucination. Now that's hallucinations. But what if the Prophet was not hallucinating and was just delusional? He would have produced the Quran himself, but would be delusional in believing his production was from God. But this would require Muhammad, peace be upon him, not being aware of his production of the Quran, hallucinating during the production of Quran, or having lied or saying he didn't produce the Quran, but that it was a message from God, despite being fully aware he produced the Quran from his own hands. The first two fail, as the Quran produced without consideration nor thought would not be coherent nor rhythmic, nor would a Quran from hallucination. For the third option, we already discussed why I reject the Prophet being a liar. Due to this deductive reasoning, I came to the conclusion that Muhammad, peace be upon him, must have been inspired by God, and I became a Muslim again at 16. At the same time, I was learning about the philosophical arguments for God like the Kalam, the Burhan, as-Sattiqing, and the fine-tuning argument. All of these in conjunction with the Islamic narrative and well-preserved hadith literature made Islam too compelling. I am now 26 and haven't doubted Islam for a minute since.